October 15th, 1600. Dawn breaks over the misty plains of Sekigahara as 160,000 samurai warriors prepare for the most decisive battle in Japanese history. Tokugawa. Ieyasu's Eastern Army faces off against Ishida Mitsunari's Western coalition in a clash that will determine the fate of feudal Japan for the next 250 years. Steel gleams in the morning light. War drums thunder across the valley. But let's change one thing. Hidden in the morning fog sits something that shouldn't exist for another 400 years. A modern Navy SEAL fire team dropped into the heart of medieval warfare with weapons that could reshape history itself. So what happens when four of America's most elite warriors find themselves caught between two armies of legendary samurai at the crossroads of an empire? This isn't your typical special operations mission. The year 1600 means no satellite communications, no extraction helicopters, and definitely no air support. Our SEAL team is armed with cutting-edge 21st century technology, but surrounded by warriors who've spent their entire lives perfecting the art of war with katana and yari spears. We're talking about a collision between two completely different philosophies of combat, separated by 4 centuries of military evolution. Let's examine what we've dropped into this pivotal moment. A standard Navy SEAL fire team consists of 4 operators trained to operate in any environment on Earth. Each one can run 7-minute miles while carrying 60 pounds of gear, hit targets at 600 meters in complete darkness, and coordinate complex operations using encrypted communications that would seem like pure magic to anyone in 1600. Their M4A1 carbines fire 5.56 millimeter rounds at 950 rounds per minute on full automatic. One operator carries an Mk-48 machine gun loaded with 7.62 NATO rounds that can punch through medieval armor like paper. Each SEAL also packs a Sig Sauer P320 sidearm, combat knives, fragmentation grenades, and enough medical supplies to treat battlefield trauma that would kill most people in the 17th century. All of this firepower is protected behind level 3A body armor with ceramic plates designed to stop high-velocity rifle rounds. Their helmets alone cost more than most samurai earned in a year. And their night vision goggles let them see clearly in conditions that would leave their opponents fighting blind. But here's the thing. Technology doesn't automatically equal victory, especially when you're outnumbered 40,000 to 1. Standing against them are the cream of Japan's warrior class. These aren't peasant conscripts forced into service. We're talking about professional soldiers who've trained since childhood in Bushido, the way of the warrior. Samurai who can draw their katanas and deliver killing strikes in under a second. Masters of the yari spear who can maintain formation while charging at full speed. Mounted cavalry armed with Yumi longbows capable of piercing armor at 100 meters. These warriors have spent decades perfecting their craft, and many have already proven themselves in countless battles across a country torn apart by civil war. The Western Army alone fields 80,000 men under commanders like Kobayakawa Hideaki and Ukita Hide, veterans who understand battlefield tactics, terrain advantages, and how to coordinate massive troop movements without radios or modern communications. The Eastern forces bring equally experienced generals like Honda Tadakatsu, known as one of the greatest warriors in Japanese history, and Ii Naomasa, whose red-armored cavalry struck fear into enemy ranks across multiple campaigns. But there's something else our SEALs need to consider. This battle isn't happening in some remote location where they can pick their engagements. Sekigahara is a narrow valley surrounded by mountains, with limited escape routes and nowhere to hide from 160,000 pairs of eyes. The morning fog that initially conceals them won't last forever, and once it lifts, they'll be exposed on terrain that heavily favors traditional warfare. The question isn't just whether modern weapons can defeat medieval warriors. It's whether four men, no matter how well trained, can survive being caught in the middle of the largest battle in Japanese history, while both armies try to figure out whether these strange warriors are demons, gods, or something else entirely. As the morning mist begins to thin and war horns echo across the valley, our SEAL team faces a choice that will determine not just their own survival, but potentially the entire course of Japanese history. The first shots fired at Sekigahara aren't arrows or musket balls. They're 5.56 millimeter rounds traveling at 3,000 feet per second, completely rewriting the rules of medieval combat. At 0700 hours, advanced scouts from Kobayakawa's forces spot movement in the dissipating fog. What they see defies everything they understand about warfare. Four figures in strange armor moving with inhuman coordination, carrying weapons that gleam with unfamiliar metal. The lead samurai raises his hand to signal the sighting, and that's when the SEAL team's point man makes a split-second decision that changes everything. A single suppressed shot drops the scout silently into the tall grass. His companions freeze, confused by the lack of sound, the absence of smoke, the impossible distance of the kill. One moment their leader was alive. The next he's crumpled on the ground with a hole punched clean through his chest armor. Panic spreads through the scouting party like wildfire. These are hardened warriors who've seen men die in dozens of different ways, but nothing in their experience prepared them for this. No bow could shoot that far. No arquebus could fire without thunder and smoke. The surviving scouts retreat toward their main force, shouting about demons and sorcery. Word spreads rapidly through both armies. Tokugawa's eastern forces halt their advance as reports filter back of supernatural warriors on the battlefield. Ishida's western coalition receives similar accounts from their own scouts. In an era where superstition and warfare go hand in hand, the sudden appearance of inexplicable fighters threatens to derail the entire battle before it properly begins. Our SEAL team realizes they've made a critical error. In trying to remain undetected, they've created something far worse than discovery. They become a supernatural threat that both armies now view as either divine intervention or demonic interference. Medieval Japanese warriors don't retreat from superior numbers or better weapons, but they do pause when faced with what appears to be otherworldly intervention. The team's communications specialist tries to establish some kind of dialogue, stepping into view and raising his hands in what he hopes is a universal gesture of non-aggression. But his strange appearance only reinforces the supernatural theory. His digital camouflage pattern shifts and ripples in ways that 17th century eyes can't process. His helmet-mounted equipment resembles nothing in their world. Even his stance and movement patterns scream foreign to warriors trained to read body language and fighting styles. A group of Eishigaru foot soldiers, armed with yari spears, moves to investigate, their formation tight and disciplined despite their obvious fear. At 50 meters, they halt and begin shouting challenges in Japanese that none of the SEALs understand. The language barrier becomes another layer of complexity in an already impossible situation. When the smoke clears and history's most unlikely battlefield encounter reaches its end, we're left with a fascinating question. Could 4 modern warriors, armed with 21st century technology, survive being dropped into the heart of feudal Japan's most decisive battle? The answer isn't as simple as superior firepower versus ancient steel. It's about adaptability, numbers, and the brutal reality that even the most advanced soldiers can be overwhelmed when facing an entire empire. What do you think would happen next? And if you want to see what occurs when modern military might faces off against ancient Rome's legions, check out this video. Thanks for watching.